Whittle and his prosecution.
Question number 9, David Shearer.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister of Energy. What is his ministry's best estimate for the percentage increase in retail electricity prices for the period 1 February to 1 August this year for a household of 4 persons averaged across New Zealand?
Speaker.
Honourable Simon
Firstly,
Bridges.
can I congratulate the member for asking me his first ever question?
Order! The member will simply stand, the Minister will simply stand and answer the question that's been asked. Point order. This is a point of order. It will be heard
Mr. Speaker,
in silence.
You have now had cause in every answer from a government minister today where they have breached standing orders from an opposition member, where they have breached standing orders. I would ask that we be granted an additional supplementary question in light of that.
I'll consider that when I hear the quality of supplementary questions that are being asked. Honourable Simon Bridges will now rise and answer the question that's been asked.
Mr Speaker, the Ministry's best estimate based on increases in transmission and line charges is an average increase.
Order! Order. Now, I'm having trouble hearing this answer, and I think it would be helpful to the members if we can have it. Point of order, the Honourable David Cunliffe.
Mr Speaker, you're quite right, sir, to point out that there's some noise coming from the opposition benches behind me, sir, but you may wish to note that that occurred after the previous exchange of points of order where, sir, you ruled that it was a matter of the supplementaries and not the Minister's original answer that had caused the problem of standing orders.
The House needs to settle down. The question has been asked, and I require the Minister to now answer that question. Where we go to with further supplementaries is a matter I'll consider. Simon Bridges.
Mr Speaker, the Ministry's best estimate based on increases in transmission and line charges is an average increase of 2.6% from 1 April. Advertised price increases only tell, of course, part of the story. There are sharp deals for customers who shop around. For example, discounts of between $80 and $300 are available, effectively reducing a power bill by up to 13.8% for an average consumer. I'd also remind that side of the House that this government has halved the runaway price increases that they set back and did nothing about on their watch.
Supplementary, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, David Shearer.
Does he stand by the Prime Minister's statement that electricity increases, quote, are a result of the increasing costs they face because of the upgrade of the grid by Transpower, unquote, or that of Transpower itself, who said that transmission charges made only up a small part, less than 10% of power bills, and therefore could not possibly be responsible for those increases?
Speaker,
Honourable Simon Bridges.
I agree with the Prime Minister.
Order. Order. Supplementary question, David Shearer.
Mr Speaker, can he fall back on the consumer price switching model, as he calls it, when the agency COVAC, on behalf of Moby, produced a report that said that the switching had no significance on retail prices or on competitiveness?
Speaker.
Honourable Simon
Bridges.
Bridges.
That's not quite what they said. As I said in the answer to the primary question, people who do shop around can see some $80 to $300 discounts. We're seeing increasingly sharp discounts for paying online, paying on time, and so on. And of course, those discounts I talked about are of a vicinity much higher than the overall price increases that we're seeing from 1 April.
Supplementary question.
What
David
does he
Shearer.
tell the people of New Zealand, many of whom have written into me with price increases of up to 20%, that their prices are only going up 2.6%, when at the same time the prices of electricity here in Wellington are going up 7%, and only less than half of that can be attributed to Transpower and lines charges?
Honourable Simon Bridges.
Well, obviously at 20%, 24%, I think the members talked about, they are absolute outliers. I've already given them the average. That is much lower than that. But it's hard to take a lecture on policy from the Labor Party when David Parker and Russell Norman last week wouldn't answer any more questions on the detail of their so-called NZ Power Plan.
What did David Butcher think of it?
Supplementary question, David Shearer.
Mr Speaker, does the Minister agree with the Prime Minister that the electricity market is, quote, operating effectively and transparently? And if so, why is the Electricity Authority investigating it for lack of transparency?
Honourable Simon Bridges.
The reforms of this government have half the steep power price increases we saw in a tweet from David Cunliffe last week when he railed against price increases. We believe we've got a competitive market that is becoming more competitive, where there is a lot of options for customers who shop around. But I happen to agree with the Electricity Authority that transparency is something where there is room for improvement, and that's why I'm focused on that, and I'm making sure that they are focused on that and that they are working on that issue vis-a-vis power bills.
Point of order.
Mr Speaker, I seek leave for the Electricity Transparency Bill, in light of his answer just now, in my name, to be introduced as a Members' Bill and set down for first reading at the next sitting day.
Leave is sought for that course of action. Is there any objection? There is objection. Order. Order. Question number 10, Dr. Paul Hutchinson.
Thank you, Mr.